What's up, guys? It's Toad. I'm back with you for the last NFL Better Off Dead of the season. This is the Super Bowl show where I'm going to give out props that I actually have that I'm playing. I've one tradition. Well, this is just tradition now because I did it last year. I will have one player prop on each team that is my favorite. It didn't work out as well last year. I think those went 1-1 last year, but whatever. And then I do have the boring props that I always play in the Super Bowl that are just grinder, like moneymaker type of props. And I will give out my opinion on the side and total, and I'll talk some of the fun props as well. Talk about how props really work in general and how you want to bet them. Hopefully this video won't go too long. I do not have a bet on the side or on the total in the game. It's all props from me, so you don't want to force it. I do bet, I would say, the majority of Super Bowl sides, and I do have an opinion in this one, but I don't think I'm going to actually bet it this time. Since I've been doing this, I think I've probably bet the side in 12 or 13 of the 18 Super Bowls or something like that. And I think I'm like, I don't even know what I am now. Maybe 8-5 on the sides. I know I lost last year on the 49ers. But today, by the way, didn't go the way that I wanted to. I got Arizona on right now, which is my last gasp of the day. They are up 7 right now. If they cover the 3, which, by the way, this went off at 3.5, so again, I beat the number on this. Arizona, if they cover, I'll have a 7-7 in one day, which would be, I believe, a slight loss, even though I got some moneyline underdog wins, I think. But the day started out, well, it started out bad with the first game being terrible with Oklahoma, but then I won 4 out of the next 5 and got a push in there, too. So I was 4-1-1, and the push was ridiculous with Indiana. They were down 3. I had Indiana +3. Apparently there were some 3.5s out there, so I could have won the bet maybe, but I'll take the push on that one because they were going to lose, and they hit like a meaningless half-court shot at the buzzer to cut it back to 3 to push that bet for me, and it won some of the bets for the +3.5 players. I mean, I'll just take it. One thing I did get wrong, though, is that I guess why do I already forget his name? Their coach there, Woodson, is that his name? He didn't, even though he resigned, I guess he is actually going to coach the rest of the season. So I thought he was going to be gone. But either way, I mean, I think that kind of helped out. Like, I still think that factored into the handicap correctly. But I thought he was going to be gone, and he's not. But, I mean, all right. So I did get that wrong, but the bet pushed, whatever. And then had a bunch of bets just start falling the wrong way. Like Northern Arizona missed by like 1 or 2 points. Portland Trailblazers was absolutely the worst one that I've seen in a while, man. The Trailblazers, I had +6.5. The line was down to 3.5 when the game went off because I think there might have been some guys being rested or something. So I absolutely obliterated the closing number on that. And they were winning the game outright for almost the whole game. They were winning by double digits throughout like the entire middle portion of the game. I'm like, all right, sweet. They were winning by 13 points with like a minute left in the third quarter. So it's like, all right, this is a sure thing. And then at some point, they scored like 2 points over like an 8-minute stretch in the fourth quarter, and they wound up losing by almost 20 points. I've never seen anything like that. I think they must have gotten outscored by at least 30 points just in the fourth quarter. What the fuck? Portland Trailblazers. That was a sure win. It was probably going to be a money line cash, and then it winds up not even covering the +6.5, and I had the better number on that. It is such bullshit, dude. And then I lost one of the hockey plays won, one of them lost. I mean, I'm not going to go. I had way too many plays there, so I'm not just going to go through them one by one. But the Columbus Blue Jackets is an underdog loss in overtime, which still basically means it was worth taking the shot, really, on them. If you have an underdog sending the game into overtime, game was tied for a while. I think they were winning at one point earlier in the game. It probably was worth, like, just taking the chance on that. I think I probably handicapped the spot correctly in that one. Unfortunately, Philadelphia did win, and I stayed off of that one. But I stayed off of the Bulls, too, and the Bulls did something similar to the Blazers, and they were winning late in the game, and they wound up losing in a blowout. It just makes no sense, man. This NBA is ridiculous. And then I don't know what happened in my other NBA game that I lost with Houston. Dallas, Anthony Davis had a really good first half, so they were killing me early on, and then he actually got hurt, unfortunately for Dallas. He was out of the game, and then Houston got right there. They were right on the verge, man, of maybe being able to backdoor that cover, but that didn't happen either. What can you do? I got wins earlier on Kansas State, whatever. That was a good one. The upset win from Kansas State. Cal Baptist got an upset win over Grand Canyon, even though I mentioned I don't know why the line moved on that one further up on Grand Canyon. That one made no sense. That was an easy outright win on Cal Baptist, so I don't know what was going on with that one. And then what other games did I even have? I don't even remember. Do I really want to talk about all of them? No, this is the Super Bowl show. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? Thank you, man. Yeah, let's get into the Super Bowl. Today, I'm going to go 7-7-1. Like I said, if Arizona gets this done, it'll be 6-8-1 if they don't. I mean, it'll be a losing day, you know. It's not going to be a significant win or a loss today. Let's just put it that way. Let's talk about the Super Bowl, man. I'm going to start by talking about boring props, I guess. Let's start by talking about that. It's kind of the way I like to do this, and boring props is where I clean up. So I'm going to start off by saying, if you watched my Super Bowl show last year, I know I'm going to repeat myself, but this is just the way that it is. So for Super Bowl props and for really the side and total, whatever, the Super Bowl is really the one game where the public can influence the line the most. Usually the public can't really even influence lines, but in the Super Bowl, there's so much public action coming in because it's the fucking Super Bowl. The public can definitely affect the lines, and the books know this, and they have to either skew the line towards where they think the public is going to bet it, or the public comes in and the books will then have to adjust because there's so much action coming in because the books are trying to balance the action. And what does the public like to play? They like to play overs on the props. They like to play over on the total as well. And then they will usually be heavier on one side of the game as well. So we can talk about that as well once I get. I'll talk about the side and total probably at the very end of the show, just because that's kind of what everybody wants to know. And it's sort of, even though I'm not going to play the side, it is sort of, it's a thing amongst handicappers where you gotta have an opinion on the side in the Super Bowl, even if you're not gonna bet the side. Give out your opinion on the side in the Super Bowl. So I will. I mean, I'm opinionated. I don't have a problem with having an opinion on the side in the Super Bowl. So I will give that out. But the props. So because the public is gonna come in, they start coming in later in the week, man. So the public, a lot of them will travel to Vegas for this. You'll start seeing the public really start getting into the market Friday, Saturday, especially throughout the day, Saturday into Sunday. So then you'll see some of these lines moving towards the public. And good for me because I usually fade the public in most circumstances, more often than not, really. So if you want to fade the public and you want to take unders and you want to take some of these weird props and go against the public and some of the weird props that I'm about to discuss, then you want to wait on those props because you want to wait until the public floods the market and then you can get better numbers on those props. So that's if you're playing unders or if you're playing some of the mind fuck props that I'm about to talk about where the public just doesn't think about them the right way and gets them wrong. That's what you want to do. But if you're playing overs, and I do have one over, which I apologize for this because this over that I'm going to give out is it is definitely gone now, although you might be able to find other ways to maybe play it. I'll maybe give out some recommendations on this because I do have one prop over in one of my player props. If you like overs, you want to bet those early, before the public gets involved because they're just going to come in on overs, basically. And what I would say is that in the Super Bowl, you really just don't want to play overs on, the star players just in general, on, Mahomes, Kelsey, whatever, things like that, Saquon, Barkley. You don't want to do that because the books know that the public is just going to come in and bet the overs on the star players. That's what they do. They want to have something to root for. So those lines are going to be skewed a little bit towards those overs. So you can find some value taking the unders in those. And then we have the props, the boring props that I'll talk about first that are the grinder props, the mindfuck props that I'm about to talk about. I'll give you what I play these every Super Bowl, basically. I find ways to do this. $50 on the Chiefs, 20% odds bonus. So what does that do? I don't know which book you're on that, but what does the 20% odds bonus do? Does it just it takes 20% off of the VIG or something? What does that do? Gives you reduced juice? I don't know. But as you'll find out later in the show, I do not disagree with the Chiefs side, but now I'm spoiling the big reveal. But That's just the way that it is. I can't stop talking. All right, the first thing I'm going to talk about is Super Bowl. The way the game tends to flow is that teams really don't want to make mistakes early. And these are two, as I'll talk about when I talk about the total as well, these are two teams that don't make a lot of mistakes. Both of these teams have made very few turnovers, which for like most of the season, basically, which was kind of interesting because actually both Mahomes and Hurts actually were throwing a lot of interceptions early in the season, and then they completely stopped. And I think Hurts, I think, has thrown one in the last, like, 14 games or something like that, and Mahomes has only thrown one in the last, like, 11 or 12 or something like that. And I think he did throw one against Buffalo in the AFC Championship game, but these teams have committed almost no turnovers. I think Kansas City as a team hadn't even committed a turnover over the last, like, 10 weeks of the regular season or something like that. You can go look. I'm trying to get these numbers straight in my head, but the point is these teams don't make a lot of turnovers in general anyway, but the way that the Super Bowl tends to play out is teams start slow. They don't want to make mistakes early. So I'm already expecting this to be a game where you're going to get, like, offenses are going to be trying to play the possession game. Like, you're going to get Philadelphia running Saquon Barkley. You're going to get Kansas City probably throwing a lot of short passes and also trying to establish the running game with Hunt, who is now their starting running back, I guess. Obviously, they don't have the better running back here, but I think you're going to see possession, like slow offensive drives early. And like I said, teams, they don't want to do something really ridiculous early on. Usually, they don't want to take massive risks early on. They do want to, like, just start out the game kind of feeling each other out and not make a mistake early. So I like to look for unders early in the game. So a lot of times I'll look to play the under in the first quarter. A lot of times I do that. But in this case, I'm not going to because I couldn't find the under 10. But the books know 10 is like a very key number, of course, because it's a touchdown, extra point, and field goal. So 10, very key. If you want to play under first quarter, you got to find under 10. But if you do find that for this one, you probably can, but you're probably going to be paying like minus 140 or something for it. So you are probably going to pay a price for that. So rather than that, I'll find a different way to try to play like the beginning of the game being lower scoring, which I'll talk about in 1 second. And also I will say you don't really want to stack like the same prop over and over again. So like I used to do that a little bit, and if I was right, it was a nice time, but if I was wrong, you kind of get like a double whammy. So like you don't want to like play like 4 different ways of like all like, oh, under first half, under first quarter, under, no score in the first 6 minutes, which is going to be my actual way of playing this, which I'll talk about in a second. You don't really want to stack like a bunch of props that are all the same just because you're kind of overexposing yourself, and it's kind of just multiple ways of playing the same thing. So you just want to try to find like the best way of playing that one thing, because if the game doesn't go the way that you think, you could lose a lot if you have a lot of props that are stacked that are all the same. So you want to diversify like your prop portfolio, basically, even though I know it does mean that maybe it's less likely that you'll have a huge day, but it's less likely you're going to have a like really bad day as well. So you want to have props that are kind of independent of each other too, like where really one doesn't depend on the other at all, and it doesn't even have anything to do with like how the game is going to go. Like, oh, if you think Kansas City is going to win, or you think the game's going to go under or whatever, have like one bet that's like, that goes that way, but don't like stack a bunch of bets that are going that way, if that makes sense. Have some bets that could either win or lose regardless of that. And what I will also say is that because you're going to want to have a tendency to play a lot of bets in the Super Bowl, play a lot of props, you want to reduce the amount that you're putting on those bets. So what I do is like, basically every one of my bets is basically 3 units. That's what I do. I don't really weigh my bets higher or lower than others, even though maybe I should, because I do have some bets where I have like a really strong opinion, and those do tend to win more often than some of my other ones do, but I don't do that. I put 3 units on every like normal bet that I make if I bet on the game or whatever, but on each individual prop, I'll only put like 1 unit on it. So if I'm betting to win like 300, which is what I do on like a regular bet on like a game or something like that, on each individual prop that I'm betting, I'll only make it 100. So I really won't have that much at stake on the Super Bowl here, but I will have, usually I'll have the equivalent of about 2 to 3 bets. Like, it'll be 3 if I'm actually betting the game itself, but in the props, I'll usually have 5 or 6 props that I'm playing, so it'll be close to like the equivalent of 2 normal bets for me, if that makes sense. If all of this is making sense, hopefully it is. We went from minus 115 to plus 108. All right, so you got the Chiefs. I get what you mean. So you got the Chiefs as an underdog. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that because, as I said, I do lean to the Chiefs in the game, so obviously I don't mind that. If you're getting them at a better money line price, definitely don't hate that. Okay, so the way that I'm going to play this, though, because I expect, the start of the game to be slow, and this is one of those ones that's kind of a public mind fuck, too, and this is no score in the first 6 minutes, minus 124. If you can find a better number out there, if you can find, I usually try to find 6.5 minutes because the extra 30 seconds doesn't usually make a difference. You can find a better number on it. A lot of times you can get it at like minus 110 in the first 6.5. So I do that a lot. A lot of the offshore books used to, they used to put that out there, but I didn't see that this year. So I found this one on FanDuel, I believe. FanDuel had it all in minute increments, but I still think this is fine. No score in the first 6 minutes. The price actually dropped on this since the public started getting involved. Like I said, the public looks at this and is thinking, oh, that's risky, because the public always likes to bet like overs and bet scores to happen and whatever. They don't want to bet an under on like anything like this. Like, they don't want to sit there and root for nothing to happen in the first 6 minutes, but I do it every single Super Bowl, man. I will literally watch the first 6.5 minutes, whatever my bet is, because I usually have this bet. I've bet this in almost every Super Bowl that I've bet, and I'll just sit there and be like, please don't score. Like, that is what I do. But this bet, this wins like way more often than it doesn't. Like, I think this has only lost once in the last like decade. You can go look it up because, again, I have to get these numbers back like in my head, but I know it hits at like a really high rate, like way more than you would think. I think the only game recently that I remember, I believe, where this bet lost was the Tampa Kansas City Super Bowl. I think it was like really close, and one of the teams, maybe I think it was Tampa, probably because they dominated that game. I think they did score like right inside like the first 6.5 or something. I think the first 6 might have still actually been no score in that one, because I think it was 6.5 and it was like right on like the last play of the 6.5 minutes. Terrible. But this is what I'm doing. No score in the first 6 minutes, minus 124. Which, again, I think that's a cheap price when this almost never happens, or it almost always happens, I should say. There's almost always no score in the first 6 minutes. Like I said, teams tend to start out slow, and as long as you're not going to get, really you have to avoid like a bad like turnover for the most part early on. Like I said, these teams are possession teams. They don't turn the ball over a lot at all. So I think you're going to see a slow, methodical drive regardless of which team has the ball first, which is probably going to be the Eagles, because I think Andy Reid is known to defer when he gets the ball first, or when he wins the toss, I mean. But I think probably Philadelphia seems like they'll probably defer as well if they win the toss, because that's just the way that it is. All these coaches now like to play the game where you want to have the last possession of the first half, score, and then get the ball to start the second half. So you have 2 possessions in a row, which is going to lead into my second prop that I play in every single Super Bowl. So the first one is no score in the first 6 minutes. Again, if you get it at anywhere like around this price, or you get the 6.5, I like that. I would play it. I am playing it. I do it every single Super Bowl. Again, it's one of those grinder ones where it's going to lose once in a while, but it wins almost every single time. So it's a very cheap price, and it's under the radar. The public doesn't play that one. They don't know what to do with it. So that's not one that like kills the books or anything like that. So I like that one. And again, both defenses in this game are really good. So you're looking at probably the top 2 defenses in the NFL when it comes down to it. So that factors into it as well, as far as like these offenses might struggle to really like get something going. Like, you probably are not going to see like some huge play, like some player break one early on. So as long as you avoid that and avoid like, the pick 6 or something like that early on, you're going to get that one. So that's the first one. The next one up, like I said, it's a nice segue into it, is either team scores 3 consecutive times in the game. This is at minus 155 now, I believe, on MGM. This is one of the cheapest prices I've ever seen for this prop, which is crazy. Like, I'll play this thing up to like minus 180. I think it's worth playing. This is one that fucks with the public's mind more than like any other prop. Like the public will look at this and think, well, wait a minute, this is the Super Bowl. This is a really close matchup. You know, it's basically like a pick 'em price on the game. And they'll think, like, there's no way this is going to happen. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be alternating scores. Either team scores 3 consecutive times, and that means touchdown, field goal, safety. Those all count. Extra point or 2-point conversion obviously does not count. So it needs to be 3 of any of those. Touchdown, field goal, safety, all scored by the same team, 3 in a row, and either team can do it. And again, the public looks at this and thinks, well, it's a close game. It's going to be alternating scores. That's not going to happen, right? And you're getting plus money on the no on this, but that's because the books know that this happens often. Just in the NFL in general, in all NFL games, basically, I think this happens at like a 70% rate or something like that. And in the Super Bowl, it actually happens more than that. So I always play this one. It happens like probably 75% of Super Bowls. I don't know if I have that number exactly right, but it is something like that. It hits at a really, really high rate. I know it actually did not hit in the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl 2 years ago. That was one of the only ones that I remember recently where it didn't hit, which is crazy because the game was so high scoring, and this actually didn't happen in that game. Both teams had 2 consecutive scores, I think maybe even multiple times, and never got to 3. But again, it happens more often than it doesn't, way more often than it doesn't. I think probably within the last 10 Super Bowls, I think it probably only hasn't happened like 2 or 3 times. So I'm playing this one, and minus 155 is unbelievably cheap on this one. I think it was probably minus 160 at like DraftKings, FanDuel last I saw, and that's because the public came in and bet the no on this and knocked the price down. Because I was just waiting on this one. I was looking throughout the week, and I'm like, oh, it's at minus 170. That's pretty good. So sometimes I've played it at like minus 170, minus 180 before. I'm at minus 155. That thing is a steal, man. I know. Again, like the public has a tendency to not want to do this because it's like, oh, I have to lay 155 just to win 100 on this. And it seems like it's something that isn't even going to happen. But again, this is like the biggest mindfuck prop that I think is out there, really. And I love this one. I play it every single Super Bowl. I know it's boring. Every Super Bowl show that I do about this, I'm going to say I'm doing this again. Because again, it's just a grind. You grind it. It's going to lose some of the time, but it's going to win way more often than that. It's going to win often enough that if you play this every single year, it's well worth the price to do it. So that's what I'm doing. And the other thing about this that makes this more likely to happen than you would think is that, as I was just alluding to it, that the way that I was trying to segue into this is that if a team scores at the end of the first half and they get the ball to start the second half and they score again, that still counts for this prop. Like the multiple scores can happen across halftime. So you can get, a team that has multiple possessions in a row. And I know, like I said, because the teams don't turn the ball over a lot, that does kind of hurt this prop a little bit because obviously if a turnover happens, it's going to help this prop a lot. But again, I'm just playing it just because it's just the way that the percentages work out, man. Just blindly play it in every Super Bowl and you win money, and that's the way that it is. And hopefully we get it, across halftime in this game. So that's the way that I look at it. And you can kind of think the same way. The public is going to kind of think the same way about there's a prop out there that's like what will the biggest like lead be in the game? And I think it's at like 13.5 is what you can get at like minus 110 on either side of it. And the public is going to bet under that because they're going to say, oh, this is a close matchup. There's no way either team is going to be ahead by 2 touchdowns at any point in this game. And that's, I think, similar to the 3 consecutive scores one where the public just doesn't think about it the right way, because you could have a close game where one team still has a decent lead at some point during the game and the game still winds up being close. Like you could have a team just score a couple times right away and all of a sudden the lead is big and then it'll drop at some other point. Although I think the biggest lead in the other Kansas City-Philadelphia Super Bowl was 10. I believe Philadelphia had a 10-point lead at one point, and that was the biggest lead in the game. But still, it was a close game. So you might even think about that game and think 10 never even happened in that game, but it did. So kind of a mind fuck there too. So if you wanted to play the largest lead one, I would fade the public on that one and go over. But I think the 3 consecutive scores is basically playing almost the same thing, but it's better, I think, because you don't even need the margin like the lead to get up to a certain point. You just need either team to just do that at some point during the game. And it could be a spot where one team scored twice and now the other team scores 3 times. So the whole time it's a close game, you know. So I like that one a lot. Every Super Bowl, man, we play that one. Nate, what's up, man? The Black National Anthem, Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar, yes, is a Satanist. Pfizer, Travis Kelce. I will talk about some of the fun props towards the end of the show after I talk about. I'm gonna go boring grinder props, which are ones I'm actually playing. Then I'll do fun props after this. How about that? Other ones I'm not playing them, but I'll talk about the fun props, and then I will give out the player props that I have, and then I will give out the side. I'll talk about the side and total opinions, but I'm not betting those, and that'll be the end of the show. How about that? All right. I don't know why I'm even sharing my screen, by the way, because it's just, I just have this up. Maybe I'll just, let me see. Let's just go to this at least. So go to the actual game, like, page at least, so it looks a little bit less dumb. I don't know, because I'm just talking. And this morning I even forgot to share my screen. So great production value on Better Off Dead, baby. All right. And the last prop that I have, this is one that I don't usually play, but I think that it's more likely this year than it usually is, and it is still a good one. Like, if you wanted to add this to your, like, repertoire, and I might add this to my repertoire for Super Bowl props, as far as, like, this is another one of those grinder ones that happens way more often than you would think, and that is the length of the shortest touchdown in the game to be under 1.5 yards. And you have to pay minus 175 for this, or actually it might be minus 170 now. I'll have to look at what I got it. I think maybe I got it at minus 170. I forget. But I was waiting on this one too. And it's somewhere in this ballpark. Because the books know the reason why this is juiced is because this thing happens way more often than you would think. And this is another one where the public's thinking, wait a minute. So for this thing to cash, there needs to be a 1-yard touchdown scored in the game. And you think, well, that is not that likely, right? Because a touchdown could be any amount of yards, like between 1 and 99, right? So you're telling me that all I need on the no on this is for a 1-yard touchdown to not happen? Well, the 1-yard touchdown happens more often than you would think. I think it's happened in 8 of the last 13 Super Bowls or something like that. This has hit. So, I mean, it is a little bit of a steeper price, but I think it's more likely this year than it usually is. So this is, again, you need there to be a 1-yard touchdown at some point in the game, and it does happen more often than it doesn't. And if you think about it, the reason for that is because of pass interference penalties in the end zone, man. That sets you up at the 1-yard line, and then it happens. So I do think it's going to happen in this game, and I think it could happen from either team in this game. Of course, you know Kansas City's going to get some calls. Kansas City gets pass interference calls in the end zone, man. So if that happens, then I think you're all right. I mean, Kansas City, I don't expect them to stall out from the 1-yard line. I mean, they can ram Kareem Hunt into the end zone, whatever. They could have some, other play where they even go to the air with it or whatever. Kansas City has a lot of different ways to score that. But the reason why I like this one is the Eagles getting this one done because of the tush push, man. The tush push makes this so much more likely. And I believe this did happen in the other Eagles Super Bowl. I think it was a tush push, actually, if I remember correctly. So this, I think it's more likely to happen than in other Super Bowls just because of the tush push. So if you get the Eagles down to the 1-yard line, you know what they're going to do. They're going to do the tush push, and it's really hard to stop that thing. So that's what they're going to do. So I think it's pretty likely. I think it's likely that this is going to happen in this Super Bowl, man. So that's what I'm doing. The shortest touchdown, under 1.5 yards in this one. So basically, yes, there will be a 1-yard touchdown. No score for the first 6 minutes on FanDuel. Let me see. I believe it is under, I'm pretty sure it was FanDuel. Let me try to find it. FanDuel, if you go to Super Bowl, go to scoring props. It's under there. Points scored in first 6 minutes. The no is 128, minus 128 right now. Or if you really want to try to start getting a little bit frisky, you could go to no in the first 7 minutes and get it at plus 132. But FanDuel does have it under scoring props if you go to their Super Bowl page there. I didn't see it on the other like major sites, but maybe it is out there. So I'm pretty sure DraftKings doesn't have it though, which is kind of unfortunate because I do like that one. All right, and then I will say there are some other like kind of weird props out there, like the octopus one is one that everybody talks about because it's like, what the hell is an octopus? Well, it's an octopus because it's one guy with it's an 8-armed man basically. So basically, what the octopus is a player gets a touchdown and then they also get the 2-point conversion. So the same player, and I believe Jalen Hurts actually got one in the last Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl, but I do think it's unlikely for it to happen. I mean, that's one that the public likes to bet, like, yes, there will be an octopus, because I think they can get like plus 2,000 on that or something, or like plus 1,400. It is very unlikely because for that prop to hit, the quarterback doesn't count in it as far as if he throws the ball, if you know what I mean. So if it's a passing touchdown, then it's the receiver who counts as being the touchdown scorer there. So then you need that receiver to also score the 2-point conversion. So it can't just be the quarterback throwing a pass on both those plays. It has to be either the same guy, gets the reception for it and or runs the ball in, you know what I mean? And the same guy can I believe, have a reception on one and have a rush on the other one, and that will still count, but it's got to be the same. So Hurts is probably the most likely to actually get it done. So maybe it is more likely because of the push and stuff, and because Hurts runs the ball. Maybe it is more likely just because the Eagles are involved. But again, they did do it. In the Super Bowl 2 years ago, Hurts did do that. He became an octopus. So I don't think it's going to happen again, but I mean, we will see. And then the other props that are similar to that are like the ones that the public really likes, those big, like long shot plus money ones. Like they like to bet, yes, there will be a safety. They like to bet, yes, there will be overtime. And I think that you should not do that. I'm not saying that you should bet the no on those, because to bet the no on those, you have to lay like, I believe you probably have to lay like minus 600 on the no safety and probably minus 1,000 or maybe more on no overtime. But that is actually value if it's minus 1,000 on no overtime. Overtime has only happened twice in Super Bowl history, and one of them was last year, so that's going to skew the line, I think, because everybody remembers the game went into overtime last year, but it almost never happens, so I doubt that it happens again. But the public, is going to come in and want to play, yes, there will be overtime, because they think it's going to be a close game. It happened last year, like, why not take the shot on that? But I think I would not waste my money on that, is what I'm saying. But some of the guys that really have huge bankrolls will actually lay the, like, minus 1,000 on the no overtime on that, which it makes sense to do it. But I mean, I don't have a huge bankroll like that I deal with. I mean, my bankroll is decent, but I just don't like laying like huge prices like that, so I just stay away from those. But it is pretty likely that there won't be overtime, that there won't be a safety, and you can actually get some really nice value on the no safety prop, because at one point, like about a decade ago, I think there were 3 Super Bowls in a row where there was a safety, which I think at that point it was like skewing the line down, so you get like decent numbers on no safety. But of course it did happen like another time, and then it stopped. But I think it was 3 Super Bowls in a row. One of them was definitely that Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl, which I won on that Super Bowl, baby, because I had the Legion of Boom in that one against Peyton Manning. I went with the defense. The public was all over, even though I love Peyton Manning, the public was all over Denver in that one because they love offense, and I faded that sentiment and went defense, got an easy win on the side on that Super Bowl. But a safety did happen in that one. I was on the under first quarter in that one, and I believe there was a safety almost right away, and then a touchdown. So it was sitting at 9 for like the whole first quarter, and it still went under. And I think I had under 9.5 in that one, and it still hit, even though it was 9-0 Seattle for almost the entire first quarter. Oh man, that was a crazy one. The toad tails of some of the old Super Bowl bets, man. And I did have one lose on the other Peyton Manning Denver Super Bowl, the one where I was on the Broncos, because everybody was on Cam Newton and the Panthers because they had the better offense. I went and I jumped on the Denver defense and took the points. Denver was a big underdog in that one, man. I took them as an underdog. They won, but in that one, I lost the first quarter under in that one because there was a fumble 6. I believe Denver, I might have even been Von Miller at that point. I think he might have been the MVP of that Super Bowl. He sacked Cam Newton. It was a sack fumble, and it was, I believe, returned for a touchdown. So that killed the first quarter under in that one. But again, I don't think the first quarter's going to go over in this one, and I don't think there's going to be a safety. I mean, you got two quarterbacks that can move with their feet and avoid the safety in this one, so I really don't think it's going to happen here, even though I know Kansas City took an intentional safety against Houston, but I don't see those happening. So those are the types of props that, yeah, I mean, the public likes to like fire on those and try to get the long shot. I do not. AIDS, you got it? Nice, man. Justin, what's up, man? I'm a Boston guy who hates the Patriots. That's true. Wait, are you saying you are a Chiefs fan in Missouri, or you're not a Chiefs fan? Bringing back the Twins. I remember that. That was that Doublemint Gum, or was it something else? Doublemint Gum did have an ad campaign with hot twins in it, but I forget. I remember the Twins, but I can't remember which product that was for. Who knows what product that was for? Great advertising when you only remember hot women and you don't remember what the ad was actually for. Oh, yeah, it was Coors. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, they should bring all that back, man. Bring back the Coors. Bring back the Bud Light. What's up? Bring it all back, man. Bring back the old Super Bowl ads that we love. I don't think it's going to happen, though. But maybe we're seeing a shift back in that direction. I mean, the NFL's taking away the end racism verbiage in the end zones now. You were in Tucson during the Steelers-Cardinals. I remember that Super Bowl. Disgruntled cable employee played a porno over the Super Bowl for 3 minutes, like on, what was that, on like local TV or on a local cable station? That is wild, man. I assume he got fired. That's crazy. Jeez. Oh, man. I remember that Super Bowl, and I think that I did something stupid with my betting in that Super Bowl. I was still learning what to do, man. I think I had Steelers money line maybe in that one, even though they were a favorite, because I remember I needed the Steelers to win for some reason or another, and they almost blew that game. I was probably on the wrong side of it, really. But that was the way that one worked out. All right. Yeah, on local cable. Well, yeah, I'm getting charged as a sex offender for that. Yeah, that definitely does make sense. That would be the case. Okay. So let's talk about we'll talk about some of the like stupid props, the novelty props here. I mean, everybody loves to bet on the national anthem, and I would really not bet on the national anthem this year. So you can bet on the duration of the national anthem is the big one that people like to do, over or under, and it's I think the line is usually set around like somewhere between 1.5 and 2 minutes. I think it's probably in the 2-minute range in this one, and that's usually around how long it takes. I mean, it's usually a long national anthem, but in this one, the guy who's doing the national anthem, because it's in New Orleans, I think he's a New Orleans artist. I don't really know who he is. Jean-Baptiste is who he is. And this guy, you have absolutely no idea how to predict what this guy is going to do, because he has done national anthems before where he didn't even sing, because I believe he plays multiple instruments, including piano, and I don't even know what else. So he's done anthems where he didn't even sing the anthem, and he played it on an instrument. So you have no clue what this guy is going to do. This is probably the most unpredictable national anthem that I've ever seen in a Super Bowl. There's no way that I would touch the anthem prop in this one. It's absolutely crazy. Go short because they're doing the black national anthem. I don't know that I would do that, man. And this is such a weird anthem that some of the books that put this up, and usually these props, I don't think you can find on. Oh, sweet. Arizona's up 7 in the final 20-something seconds, and they're at the foul line. I think I'm going to get this one. Yeah, we'll finish today 7-7-1 as long as Arizona doesn't do something really, really bad here. Yeah, they just got the foul shot, pushed it to 8. Here we go. All right, but yeah, the national anthem. So to get some of these novelty props, you do have to go to the offshore books to do it, and I have bet a few of them in the past, but I don't do a lot of it. Like, I really need some like inside information to do it. Like, one of the ones that I had was Bruno Mars to wear no hat in the whatever the halftime show that he was in was like years ago, because it was like he'd been on national TV with a pompadour hairstyle, so you knew that he was going to break tradition and not wear a hat unless he was going to completely change his hairstyle in like 2 days. But once people saw that, the books like started taking that thing down, but I was able to get in on Bruno Mars no hat at like plus 250 on that one. So like, if I have the inside information, I'll do it. But other than that, I don't touch those props. But the national anthem is so crazy that some of the books that are offering it are offering 2 different lines on it. So they have one line that is the duration from the first word to when the last word ends, which is like the traditional anthem if it's sung, but because they don't even know if he's going to sing it, they have another one that's a longer duration that's first note of the anthem to last note of the anthem. It's insane, dude, because they don't even know if he's going to sing it. I mean, my guess would be that he is, because it's the Super Bowl. You got to think he will sing it, but I don't even know, man. I think he's done it before where he's sung like only part of it and played another part of it on an instrument. So this anthem, is he a scat man? I don't know. I think he's, I don't know. He might be more of like a blues artist. I have no idea who he is, dude. Charles, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out, everybody. So I don't know about that. And then the other props that people like to do for the crazy, I'm going to go in like sequential order here. The other props that people like to bet are, of course, the halftime show, which is going to be Kendrick Lamar. And you could bet on like the first song of the set, the last song of the set. You could actually bet on how many Drake diss tracks he's going to have in his set, because he hates Drake. They have a beef, man. This is the rap community. There's a beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. You know this is going to be a satanic halftime show, because Kendrick Lamar, I mean, if you saw his other halftime show, he had a portion of the halftime show a couple of years ago. A satanic reference prop? No, there is not. It's too subjective anyway. Betting companies also own most sports platforms. Video Crew also talks the speed of things, like who's on the anthem vocals. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you got to look at like the past history of the singer that's doing it, because usually they will have done anthems otherwise. So you just got to look at what they've done otherwise. But this guy, Baptiste, is like massively unpredictable. But for Kendrick Lamar, here's the thing. I don't know his shit either, man. But I always like just dive into it and try to find some information just to see if there's inside information. So Kendrick Lamar, what I will say is that he did 2 songs during the part of the halftime show that he did a couple years ago, and he had those weird like satanic looking masked dancers. It was just bizarre. But he did Mad City is that the name of it? Was one of the songs that he did, and then the other song was I don't even remember the name of the other song, but it's like, it seems like it's kind of likely that he won't do those this time. So I think Mad City was one of the options for the first song this time. I would say he probably won't do that this time because he did it the other time. But the problem is, the problem for the books at least, is that his set list was leaked, and it seemed like it was real. It was leaked like within the last day or two. Like somebody posted it on Twitter. You can still find it. It's all over Reddit and whatever. I'm not going to actually mention it here because the social media outlets started scrubbing it from everywhere. Like Twitter, like took it down. So I don't want to actually say what it was, but you can go find it if you really are interested in this. But you can't bet on it anymore. That's the thing. Like the books that had it up, when the thing leaked, the books took it down, so you couldn't bet on it anymore. And the social media outlets actually took the post down where it was leaked, and Kendrick Lamar commented on it and kind of implied that it was actually real. So yeah, I mean, if you want to know, I mean, you could DM me and I'll tell you what the first and last songs were and the number of Drake diss tracks. I'll just say he definitely does not like Drake. He may use the halftime show as a platform to eviscerate Drake, so I'll put that one out there. But I don't think you can bet on any of that stuff anymore. So the halftime show, I mean, I'm not even going to pay attention to it, but I usually just kind of look just to see, was I right? But I go to like the set list wiki once it's done just to see like what song was it, because I don't even know the songs. Like he'll start a song, I won't even know what the fuck it is because I don't listen to this guy. So Yeah, they're both gay, Kendrick and Drake. Drake also had that weird stuff where he was hanging out with Millie Bobby Brown when she was underage. She's legal now, though, baby. But when she was underage, I don't know, Drake had this weird thing with her. I don't know what the deal is there. All right, Arizona finished that one off for me. They won by 9, so I got that one right to finish the day. So that was good. Yeah, satanic pedos have beefs. So that's what's going on with the Kendrick Lamar stuff. I mean, I think you can't really bet it anymore. And then, of course, the other one that everybody likes to bet is the Gatorade color at the end. The color of the Gatorade that the winning coach gets the Gatorade bath in, which it's hard to predict, but actually I think this year it might be a little bit easier to predict this year than other years. But the thing is, the books might know something different because here's the thing about this year's Gatorade prop. The most likely color is purple, and I'll explain why that's the case in a minute. But the issue is that if you look at the odds on it, the purple is only at like plus 225. So the books really aren't telling you that they think it's definitely going to be purple or anything like that. And if they did, they probably wouldn't even let you bet on this. But it's not even a favorite. But the reason why everybody thinks it's going to be purple and why it is the favorite and that it has the like lowest odds is because the Chiefs might three-peat here. And in the previous 2 Super Bowls, the last 2 years when the Chiefs won, it was purple in both of those Super Bowls. And I know one of them, there was that weird thing where, like, you know, because there is always a Gatorade colored bet. In the first Super Bowl that the Chiefs won against the Eagles, people couldn't figure out what the color was because it wasn't shown on TV. Because I guess the Gatorade bath happened like in the middle of the field. Like after the game is over, the players like tracked down Andy Reid and dumped the Gatorade on him in the middle of the field, and it wasn't shown on live TV because usually it happens on the sidelines. And then people found like pictures of it. Oh, it's confirmed. It was purple. Okay, so it was purple. It was purple again last year when the Chiefs won. So the thought is that if the Chiefs go for the three-peat, if they get the three-peat, they're going to do it again and go with purple again. And it makes sense. I mean, if you agree with that and you think the Chiefs will win and they'll do that because of the three-peat, purple might make sense, but it is at plus 225, so maybe the books are telling you maybe it won't be. The other most common in the last, 15 years, orange has been the most common. I think orange has appeared 5 times, and I think blue has appeared, I believe, 4 times. But then I believe the second highest odds this year are green/yellow, because I guess the thought is that maybe the Eagles will have green or yellow Gatorade, the classic lemon lime on their sideline because it is green, because the Eagles have green in their colors. I don't know what the thought is there. Green/yellow, I think, has appeared 3 times in the last decade or so, but I would not bet on red, by the way, even though Chiefs are red, whatever. I would not go with that at all because red has, people don't like fruit punch, I guess, man. Red has not been the Gatorade bath color in this century. It hasn't happened from 2000 onward. It's never been red. So you don't want to bet red. Clear has happened a few times, and no Gatorade bath at all has happened a few times. But I think no Gatorade bath at all, I think happened 3 times, and 2 of them were Bill Belichick. So I would say there is going to be a Gatorade bath here. It's happened all the other times Andy Reid has won, so there should be one. And maybe purple does make sense if you want to bet that. I love how I'm analyzing the Gatorade color. Green apple is the best. I don't even know if I've had. Maybe I've had green apple. I like lemon lime, man. Personally, it's the classic. I like it for whatever reason. It's just kind of, as a kid, I remember drinking it. I liked it, and that was kind of like, oh, I want to be like Michael Jordan, back in the day, and this is what he drinks. I like lemon lime, and I like some of the new, kind of weird flavors, a couple of the different blue ones I kind of like. Not really a huge fan of fruit punch or orange, really, personally. But yeah, lemon lime is my favorite. Until bettors know, random stadium employee would take $20,000 for telling a rando to bet a color. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You can bet on whether or not there'll be a streaker again. By the way, it's some of the weird offshore books, some of the really weird props. Because I think there was one. Was it last year there was a streaker, or maybe 2 years ago? I wouldn't bet the yes on that this year, though. I think that was kind of a one-time thing, and maybe you're getting the odds are skewed towards the yes now because it did happen recently. I would not bet on that. And ever since the San Francisco Baltimore Super Bowl between the Harbaughs, since then you can always bet on will there be a power outage, but I believe it has not happened since then. But who knows what's going to happen? It's a crazy 2025, man, and maybe something really crazy will happen. So maybe there will be another power outage in this one. I don't know. I'm not going to bet on any of that crap, but that's the way that it is. And I believe you can bet on Kendrick Lamar. Like, is he going to wear a hoodie or not? Like, that information hasn't been leaked, and it seems like it's almost like even money of like yes versus no on that. I think maybe the yes was like a small favorite. So you could try to figure that one out if you want. I'm not going to try to do that. And then one thing that I think is a little bit interesting is I guess maybe I should wait until I talk about the total. Maybe I'll wait until I talk about the total because there is one weird thing about the odd versus even total that I noticed. I go back and I look at all these props, man. So get cold to streak at it. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm pretty sure that the last time it happened, I think it was because somebody bet on. I think the streaker himself, I think, had bet on it, right, and did it because he figured getting arrested and spending some time in jail was worth winning the bet or something like that. I mean, if that's what that guy did, that's pretty badass, to be honest. All right, let's talk about the player props here. And the first one I got, this is the one where you cannot get this anywhere near this price anymore, and that's Xavier Worthy receptions over 5 at minus 137. I got it at minus 137, but if you want this thing now, you got to pay like minus 170 for it. It might even be worse than that, so I apologize for that because I know this is an over, and the public plays all overs. They come in, and then the line gets really skewed, but I kind of thought that, I mean, I did play this one early, but I kind of thought that the public wouldn't pay as much attention because they always like, the quarterbacks and the main guys, Kelsey's, the main receiver there, really, even though he's the tight end. So a lot of times they don't come in and play like, they won't come in and like pay as much attention to some of these secondary guys. But Xavier Worthy, I think the 5 is actually too low. You could probably still get the over 5.5 at like minus 110, maybe minus 120 on this. And if you do that, I don't hate that. I think he's going to be heavily involved in this game. And the thing is, I think the line on this is actually too low because I think it's taking into account the earlier parts of the season where he wasn't as involved in the offense. He wasn't getting as many targets earlier on. I think, do I have this up? I thought I had StatMuse up. Maybe I don't. But whatever. So Worthy, I mean, he wasn't getting as many targets or as many receptions early in the season. But in the later part of the season, I believe he had... it was something like he had like 8, 7, and 6 receptions in the last 3 regular season games, except for excluding the Denver game because he didn't even play in the Denver game, the game where Kansas City rested everybody. So we don't have to look at that game. But the 3 games before that, he had 6, 7, and 8 receptions, I think, in each of those. And I think he has not gone below 5 since like November, I think. So he's had at least 5 receptions every game since then. And in the 2 playoff games, he had 5 and 6. So the 5.5, maybe that's what the books did. Maybe they just said, well, he's averaging 5.5 over the 2 playoff games, so put it up at 5.5. I don't know. The over 5, I think, is extremely safe because if it lands on 5, you'll at least push your bet. So that's why I did that. That's why I paid the extra money because I think, like I said, he hasn't been below 5 since like November. So I really don't see that happening unless he gets hurt, God forbid. I think over 5 is very, very safe because at worst it's going to push. But if you want to play over 5.5, I don't mind that. I think he is going to get involved in this game, man, because the Chiefs, they don't have a great rushing attack this year. And if Kelsey is going to get covered by this Eagles defense, you know what the Chiefs are going to have to do, man. And they might get him involved because he's a speedster, too. He's the fastest player in the NFL. He broke the NFL combine record for the 40-yard dash or whatever. So Chiefs probably going to get him involved. And if the Chiefs are playing like a possession type of offense, they might be throwing some short passes to him, some screen passes to him. So again, that's why I like receptions rather than yards or anything like that. The public likes to play yards more than receptions because receptions is kind of boring. But I think the receptions is way safer, man. And he hauls in most of his targets. Like if you look at his games where he's getting a lot of targets, he usually only has like 2 or 3 targets per game where he doesn't actually make the catch. So that's good as well. So if he's getting a lot of short passes, he's going to be catching those. And that's what I like. I mean, just receptions over. So I am going with Worthy over on his receptions. But again, the price has skyrocketed in a way that I really didn't expect it to. I thought it would go up, but not to the extent that it has. So I think it's maybe the public and professionals all are just drilling the over on this one because they think it's too low based on his current form. It does seem a little bit low based on his current form because, like I said, he had 21 receptions over the last 3 games that he played in the regular season, and if you include that last of those 3 and the 2 playoff games, he's at 19 receptions in those last 3. So he is closer to averaging like 6 or 7, really. So I think it is going to happen. So I have that one. That's my Chiefs player prop. I almost feel obligated to have one player prop per team now, but that's the one that I like there. Scoreboard, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. And then my Eagles player prop, I will point out the Dallas Goedert prop seems very popular. Dallas Goedert over his yardage total. Like a lot of pros came in on that earlier in the week. But again, that's an over, and you've lost like a lot of the value on that because the pros came in and were taking it at like over 48 and a half yards. And I wouldn't disagree with that, but now it's up to like 52 and a half because the public is coming in on that too. So I can't do it at this point. If it was in the mid like 40s, I would probably agree with it. And the reason for that is that the Chiefs actually have allowed the most yardage to opposing tight ends in the entire NFL. That's like their one defensive weakness is tight end yardage. They allow a ton of it. So that's the reason why people are doing that. And Goddard has gone over that yardage total, I believe, in the last 2 or 3 games. But if you look at a lot of his like earlier games, like during the season, he had a lot of games where he didn't come close to it. So I don't know. So I didn't love that one that much. So I just was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that one. It seems a little bit too public to me as well. So I'm staying off of that. I will say I do kind of like, I don't play the anytime touchdown scorers. And I know the public loves to come in on the anytime touchdown scorers because it's, will this player score a touchdown or not? And almost all of them you can get plus money on, except Saquon Barkley is minus money on that. He's a favorite to score a touchdown. He's probably at like minus 140 something. So even the public might not even be coming in and betting that one at that price, not loving that price. So the public likes to come in on those plus money guys and bet, yes, this player will score a touchdown. But I will say, if you're going to play any player to get an anytime touchdown, I think Jalen Hurts is probably the best one that I've seen in recent Super Bowls, and you can get him, I think, at like plus 110 right now, and that means it can't be a passing touchdown. The anytime touchdown for a quarterback, it has to be a rushing touchdown, but of course, again, it's the tush-push factor, man. I think that makes him way more likely to do it, and if you look at his history, like look at this year, I think he's had an anytime touchdown 14 of the 18 games or something like that, and he definitely did in at least one of the 2 playoff games. I know he had that big run in the Rams game. He probably actually did it in the Washington game too because they scored so many points. So Hurts is getting an anytime touchdown many, many times. And I know the Chiefs have a better defense than almost any of these other teams. So there is that factoring in. But I think if you're going to play any player to get an anytime touchdown in this game, and it needs to be a rushing touchdown if it's going to be Hurts, but that's what I would look to. I think it very well may happen, especially, if they get down to the 1 yard line and they're going to push it in. But I'm essentially already playing that by playing, the 1 yard touchdown to happen that I mentioned earlier. And I prefer that one because it could be either team to do it, even though I'm laying a price on it. It doesn't have to specifically be Hurts. So I like that one. And then the play that I actually have, I do have an Eagles prop, and people are not going to like this one, man, and maybe this total is going to go up a little bit. I don't think you have to play this one now. I think you can play this tomorrow. I'm going to go Saquon Barkley under his rushing yards. It's 112 and a half right now, and I think you could probably find it. I think it's been kind of in the range of 113, 114 at some points maybe, and maybe the public is going to drive this thing back up, but I like it either way, and there are some reasons for this. I mean, first of all, I think the line is just too high. I think it's skewed because the books know he's the star running back, man. He's the guy. So they have to put this total out way high just because they know the public is going to come in on this. And yes, Barkley himself has done this repeatedly this year, but still, if you look at what he's done, how he's done it, man, in the Rams game when he did this, it was because he broke off one huge run that was like a 60-something yard run. And then I think in the Washington game, he had one really big run as well. So he got like just over this total in both those games. And to do so, he had to break one big rush. So basically, what you're doing here is you're basically betting him to not break a huge run. And I know it seems a little bit dangerous because you're going to be playing the whole game to have that not happen. And the Eagles are probably going to be running him a lot, but I think the Chiefs' defense can hold him in check, man. And a couple of the things I like, the reason why I like this so much is the trends that are involved in this. So one trend is that in the Super Bowl, and I think it's just the way the Super Bowl plays out, is that in the Super Bowl, there has not been a 100-yard rusher since 2006. So almost 20 years since there's been a 100-yard rusher in the Super Bowl, which seems insane because there's been some good rushers, in the Super Bowl, but it hasn't happened since then. And the guy who did it was Dominic Rhodes. Nobody would ever guess that on Indianapolis, which was, I believe, the year they beat the Bears in the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. Good year for me because I love Peyton Manning and I hate the Patriots. So that was a fun one for me. But he was the last rusher to get at least 100 yards in the Super Bowl, man. It happened a lot more in like the 90s. Like Emmitt Smith, I think, did it a couple of times for the Cowboys. So yeah, you had these elite rushers. Yes, Barkley's an elite rusher, but the game has changed, man. Even though I know the Eagles are going to run the ball, but the game is much more pass-oriented now, and you just haven't seen this happen in the Super Bowl for that long. So there is definitely a trend of this not happening in the Super Bowl, even though you've seen other good running backs in the Super Bowl that haven't done this, and some of them haven't come close. So even though Barkley is elite, he is the best running back in the NFL, I still like this. He's up against one of the best defenses, man. So the Chiefs, they're going to be the best defense the Eagles have faced this year, and I'll talk more about the defenses when I talk about the total in this game, and you probably know which way I lean in that one. But again, Chiefs defense is going to be better than most. And I know people are talking about, the Chiefs, well, they've given up a lot of rushing yards in the last couple of games, right? Yes, they have, but it was only for them, a lot was 140 something total rushing yards in each of the last two games. And guess what? No single rusher got over 100 yards in any of those games. So the Chiefs themselves, they have not allowed a 100-yard. They've only allowed a 100-yard rusher once this entire season. And I don't know if you can guess who it was, but it wasn't even a running back. And it was in week 1, and it was Lamar Jackson. He was the only player to get over 100 rushing yards against this Chiefs defense all year. And it was in week 1, so the Chiefs have not allowed a 100-yard rusher in any games since then. So that's in however many straight games that is. 18 straight games they have not allowed a 100-yard rusher. This Spagnuolo defense, or however you pronounce his name, he knows how to stop the run, man. And they faced some good running backs in there, and most of them, they haven't even been close to the 100, really. There were a couple in there that were kind of in the 80s, maybe, and so many of the the lead rushers against the Chiefs this year, a lot of them were 50, below 50 yards. It's crazy, man. I know none of them were Saquon Barkley, but still, this Chiefs defense does not allow a lot of. They don't allow lead rushers to get a lot of rushing yards, man. That's just the way that it is. When they lost to Buffalo, there were only one legitimate loss during the season. The lead rusher for Buffalo in that game was Josh Allen with 50-something rushing yards. So Cook might have been out for that game, actually. So maybe that's why, but the Buffalo had nothing going on from their running backs in that game. And I know, again, it's not Barkley, but still, that's the case. And even in the Chiefs' bad defensive performances against the Steelers, and then in these two playoff games, none of those rushers got 100 yards either, man. Najee Harris, I think, put up 80 something on them, and then Mixon, I think, was in the 80s maybe for Houston, and then who did they face? Oh yeah, James Cook. I think it had maybe around 80 as well in the last game. So again, these rushers aren't coming close to this number. Like, the trends are just totally against it. I think I'm talking about this for too long, but I like the under here. And you might be able to get a better number on this if you wait until tomorrow, like I said. So we'll see what we can get as the best number on this. But that's what I like. Barkley under his rushing yards, man. All right. Pray for the Chiefs secondary. Why is that? Are they injured? What's the deal? Chiefs secondary has been decent, man. Kelsey does a good tush push. Because he's a tight end. He gets tush pushed. Yeah. His end is really firm, man. A great trivia question. The Lamar Jackson one. Yeah. Yes, sir. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher this entire season, except for Lamar Jackson, and they have not allowed a 100-yard rushing performance from a running back all season. So the only one was Week 1, Lamar Jackson, and Derrick Henry was the running back in that game, and he didn't do it. And I think it goes back even further than that. It goes back to like the Chiefs' defense in the playoffs last year. Didn't allow it either to Derrick Henry. They didn't allow it in the Super Bowl against Christian McCaffrey. So we're talking about some of the best running backs in football haven't done it against this Chiefs defense, man. It's a very similar defense to what they had last year, and McCaffrey didn't come close to it in the Super Bowl, even though it even went into overtime, and it still didn't happen. Derrick Henry. Well, for some reason, Baltimore didn't use Derrick. Or no, they didn't have Derrick Henry last year. What am I saying? Baltimore didn't do it, though, with whoever their running backs were last year. For some reason, they didn't even use their running backs last year. But in the Week 1 this year, Derrick Henry didn't do it either against the Chiefs. So, Spagnuolo, man, or however you pronounce his name, pretty good at slowing down the run and scheming against the run. Which I guess will lead me into talking about what I think about the game itself. I like the Chiefs in this game, and I haven't played it. Chiefs down from -1.5 to -1 now, and I think that's because the public is starting to come in on the Eagles. You can see 60% of tickets and only 56% of the cash coming in on the Eagles. And I'm going to give you some cool stats on the Super Bowl side here as well. So I do lean to the Chiefs because I think the Eagles are the public side. And I think a lot of it is because the Eagles are just putting up higher point totals, man. I mean, the Chiefs have played some ugly games this year, and it's that whole thing, the Chiefs are only winning because of the refs. They're barely winning these games, barely escaping. And the public, what did they see last week? They saw the Chiefs play a close game, even though I know it was against Buffalo, who's a good team. But people love Jaden Daniels in Washington, and the Eagles absolutely slaughtered them. And that was the game I was on. I was on the Eagles because I didn't like Washington at all, facing a 4th straight road game, coming off that huge upset win of Detroit. I just didn't think they were going to have enough left. The Eagles' defense, much, much better than the defenses that Washington had faced in the prior games. And I got it right easily. Eagles were an easy win for me, so my bets throughout the playoffs are 3-1-1, by the way. My other Eagles bet pushed. My only loss was Tampa in the first week, and I won on the Rams the first weekend and on, what was the other game? Oh, the Texans. So I'm 3-1-1 on the sides. I mean, obviously, I'll take that. That's not a bad playoff season for me, 3-1-1. But hopefully it doesn't turn around here. But again, I'm only playing a third of my bet size on all these props. So we'll see how it goes. I haven't played the side, but I like the Chiefs, again, because I think the Eagles putting up 50-something points in that game, people are really going to be attracted to that, man. Everybody loves offense, and they see the Eagles do that. But that was against Washington's defense, man. I mean, come on. The Eagles are putting up these point totals. Who did they face so far in the postseason? They faced, the Packers. I mean, they're all right defensively, I guess. And then the Rams, whose defense was pretty bad pretty much all year, even though they started getting it together late. But Rams, not a very good defense. And then Washington, easily the worst defense in the playoff field. Washington's defense, not good at all. One of the worst defenses in the NFL, really. So none of those defenses are even close to what the Chiefs' defense is. So the Eagles are now having to step way up in class facing the Chiefs' defense. So I think that is going to slow the Eagles' ability to score down a bit. So I like the Chiefs for that reason. But, of course, it is just the Chiefs, and they have the ability to win, man. They have the pedigree. I know both of these teams are here 2 years ago. I know a lot of the personnel is the same. Both of these teams do have experience playing in the Super Bowl, but no team has more experience doing this than the Chiefs in the entire league right now, man. I mean, the Chiefs are going for the three-peat, and they've won 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls, so they know how to win these games. It's Andy Reid off of a bye, and we know Andy Reid has a ridiculously good record. I don't know what it is now, but he is really, really good straight up off of a bye. And, of course, basically you're picking the straight-up winner here with the spread being 1. You can play the spread or the money line in this game, really, as if you're playing the side. I think you could do either. The Chiefs' price is down to the -1 is fine, but if they win by 1, it'll push. I don't think that's bad, really. Or you can find the Chiefs' money line, maybe even at like close to -110 now. So if you play either one of those, I would not disagree with it. I agree with the Chiefs' side. And the craziest stat that I saw was Vic Fangio, fanny pack Fangio, because he used to wear a fanny pack. I don't know if he still does. Fangio seems like he does not know how to stop Patrick Mahomes, man. Patrick Mahomes has done really well against Fangio defenses. I know most of this was Fangio with Denver, when he was Denver's head coach, and he was really in fanny pack mode, and Denver maybe wasn't as good then for a lot of it. But including those games, it was 6 games that Fangio had against Patrick Mahomes when he was the head coach of Denver. And then since he's been a defensive coordinator, which I think they were maybe both with the Eagles, I think, or one was with the Eagles and one was with a different team, but whatever. 2 games as a defensive coordinator for whichever teams. He is 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes straight up. So Patrick Mahomes is 8-0 against fanny pack Fangio, Vic Fangio's defenses, which 0-6 for Fangio as head coach of Denver against Patrick Mahomes. And as defensive coordinator, 0-2. So that's a decent trend if you like the Chiefs. And then there's another one where there have been 4 repeat coaching matchups in Super Bowl. So 4 times the same 2 coaches have played each other again in a second Super Bowl. And all 4 times the coach that won the first game also won the second game. So that's also another trend for the Chiefs there. That would be Andy Reid in this case. So once again, 4 times in NFL history that's happened where 2 coaches met up for a second time in the Super Bowl, and all 4 times the coach that won the first game also won the second. So that's another little trend. I mean, it's not a big sample size, but another little trend there. Now, there are some trends. The reason why I'm not on the Chiefs, because it sounds like, oh, this is all reasons to bet the Chiefs. Reason why I'm not on the Chiefs is there are some trends against it that have to do with the team with the better regular season record out of the 2 Super Bowl teams is 1-15 against the spread in the last 16 and 5-13 straight up. So that 5-13 is at least a little bit better if you like the Chiefs. The 1-15 against the spread is crazy. But what that does indicate is that the team that had the better record, but it's because they're usually the favorite. So that's why the 5-13 is a little bit easier to take, because you're just only asking the Chiefs to win the game here. So, I mean, if you want to bet the Chiefs, like that shouldn't totally detract you from doing it, although I'm kind of doing it because I see just way too many professionals like in the Eagles here, and I don't agree with them. I think the public is on the Eagles, and I think less of the cash is on them. Like I said, I like the Chiefs, but I'm just not going to fade. I know there are some professionals that have some like really strong opinions on the Eagles, so I just don't want to buck them. And I mean, I'm on record saying I think the Chiefs will win this game, so if they do, I'll just have bragging rights at the very least. So I just don't want to put my money on it. But again, team with the better record out of the 2 Super Bowl teams is 1-15 ATS in the last 16, and the Eagles were the team with the better record the last time these 2 teams faced off, and the Chiefs, of course, won. The Chiefs were a slight underdog in that game, and I was on the Chiefs in that one. I rolled with the Chiefs because everybody was saying the Chiefs were, going to be suffering because of Patrick Mahomes' ankle injury that year and whatever, and I just rode that for the last couple of games and got a couple of wins on the Chiefs because of it. But that's not this year, but still. So 1-15, but again, it's easier to stomach the 5-13 straight up record for the teams with the better record. Of course, 5-13, it could certainly happen in this game where the Chiefs win the game, because what that indicates is that the team with the better record, of course, they're going to be a little bit overvalued in the Super Bowl usually, right? Because they have the better record. So that's the team the public is probably going to come in on. But in this case, as you can see, the public isn't coming in on the Chiefs in this one. So even though the Chiefs are the team with the better record, that's not the case in this game. So that wouldn't really detract me from playing the Chiefs here, man, because I think that kind of like tells you to put that trend aside. And again, the 1-16 or whatever, 1-15 looks scary, but again, it's because a lot of those teams that didn't cover, still 4 of those teams didn't cover and still won the game outright, and it's because they must have been favorites and they just won and didn't cover. And one of them was probably the Rams against the Bengals a few years back, because I lost on the Rams 3.5 and they won by 3. So that was probably one of those ones where the team with the better record didn't cover, but they won. But in this case, it's pretty much whoever covers is going to win the game. So, and that is usually the case in the Super Bowl. So that wouldn't totally detract me from it, but also I know that if a team had a bye in the first round of the playoffs and they're up against a team that did not have a bye in the first round of the playoffs, the team that did not have the bye has like a really good record. I think they're like 7-3 or something in the last 10 Super Bowls. And that includes last year, the 49ers were the team that did have a bye to start the playoffs, and the Chiefs did not. And of course the Chiefs won, and I was on the 49ers, and that didn't detract me from that, but that is just another little piece of information to throw out there, that the team that has a bye in the first round of the playoffs. But again, that's just because they're like the 1 seed. So a lot of times they're going to be overvalued on the line again in the Super Bowl. So it's very similar to the other stat that I just threw out. So that wouldn't really detract me from playing the Chiefs here. A lot of people don't want the Chiefs to win. That is true. A lot of people are betting with their heart in this game. But again, I think a lot of people think the Eagles are going to win, just because their offenses look better and whatever. But I don't think so. I mean, again, I think the Chiefs are going to do it. I mean, they have more experience. And again, I think you were talking about the Taylor Swift-Kelsey thing. I think it would make more sense if they're going to like have a proposal or something at the end of this game. It would make more sense if they do it when the Chiefs three-peat, right? Now, again, I said, like I said last week, if everything is kind of like scripted, I think the three-peat is the story that is like the script that makes sense, right? Like Eagles winning in revenge, like that doesn't have that much of a ring to it, right? The first three-peat ever is much more of a story than, the Eagles avenged their loss in the Super Bowl from 2 years ago, So I don't know. And of course, I think this is a pretty major coaching mismatch, actually, that isn't to be overlooked, man. I think Andy Reid is the way better coach out of the two. So if this comes down to a close game, it comes down to coaching, you got to think that Andy Reid, I mean, he's done this before. He's going to outcoach Nick Sirianni, man. Sirianni is really not that great a coach, in my opinion. So you got to think that may be what's up here. Yeah. I think that is the script. So I usually have a good gauge on the Super Bowl side and like which side is public. And I do think that is the Eagles here. So I usually want to go against them. And of course, the line came out, Chiefs -1. I think it actually had moved up a little bit. I think it was 1.5. I think it may have even been 2 for a little. I don't know if it was 2 or not, but it looked like there was some movement, and now it's gone back down. And I think the late move back down towards the Eagles is definitely because the public is starting to get involved. So that allows you to get a better number on the Chiefs if that's what you like. And to finish it off, I mean, I know it's boring, but I also lean to the under. The total's up from 46.5 to 48.5 with juice. And it was at 49. It might be at 49 right now, actually, and 49.5. So if you like the under, obviously get the highest number that you can find on the total. But I would, of course, like it a lot better if it was at 51. 51 is a key number in totals, and 48 is a key number as well. So getting under 48.5 is also important. 47 and 48 are both key numbers. So if it's in that range, you want to get under 48.5 if you can, if you want to get the under. Of course, 51 is a key number. So under 51.5 would be a lot better. But I do lean to the under here because I think that, obviously the public's going to come in on the over. It's 79% of tickets, although 80% of the cash on the over. But the public, they're going to come in on the over. They want to root for scoring. They don't want to root for a boring game. So that's what's going to happen in this game. They're going to come in on the over. You might see it get a little bit higher again tomorrow with the public coming in And of course, what they saw the last games that these teams played, the NFC Championship soared over the total. And I thought that was going to be a much lower scoring game. And it wound up being like a 70, 80 point game. The Eagles put up 55 points, which, by the way, I forgot to mention. I lose my train of thought sometimes. Teams that have scored like 45 points or more in the conference championship don't do that well in the Super Bowl. I think they're like 1-3 or something like that, or 1-4. So that does apply to the Eagles. Teams that had a really high scoring output in their conference championship game, that tends to put the public on them a little bit and tend to overvalue them a little bit with that recency bias. So teams that score a ton in the conference championship tend to not do as well in the Super Bowl. But again, as I was saying, so that's another mark for the Chiefs if you like the Chiefs there. The NFC Championship was ridiculously high scoring, and then, of course, we saw the AFC Championship also went over, and I kind of like the under in both of them, and the AFC Championship was in the 50s, I think, as well. So both those games went pretty far over, so it looks so easy to take the over here, right? Like, wait a minute, the Eagles just played a 70-something point total game, whatever, almost 80, and the Chiefs just played a game that was at, like, I think 50 whatever. So, like, how are you possibly playing under 48.5 in this game? Well, the odds makers are telling you this should be much more of a defensive matchup, man, because both of these teams face a defense in the conference championship that is not as good as the defense they're going to be facing here. The Bills' defense hasn't been that good this year. I mean, they've been involved in a lot of shootouts this year. And, of course, Washington's defense is really not good. So from Washington to the Chiefs, that is a huge step up defensively. And from the Bills up to the Eagles, that is also a pretty big step up defensively. So these teams are both going to be facing better defenses than they did. Although I will say, out of these two teams, the Chiefs are the team that faced the better defenses in their playoff run. The Texans actually have a pretty good defense. Houston's defense was actually the best defense that either of these teams faced during the playoffs. So the Chiefs are a little bit more battle-tested in the playoffs as far as the defense that they face. And I think the Bills' defense, even though I just knocked them a little bit, they're definitely better than Washington's defense. They probably are better than the Rams' defense, and I don't know about the Packers. But still, the Eagles haven't faced defenses that are quite as good, I don't think. And the Eagles, they kind of had a little bit of an easier path if you think about it. The Chiefs had to go through the Bills. The Eagles didn't have to go through the Lions, right? They went through a much easier opponent there in Washington. So the Eagles got to avoid having to go on the road and face the Lions. So Eagles, so again, I'm kind of talking all over the place here, but I like the under and I like the Chiefs. But again, I think the Chiefs side is stronger than the under. The under is a little bit dangerous, I think, because again, you can see weird things happen. And the game, on one like freak thing, the game could go over this total. So I don't want to be sitting holding an under ticket in this game. So I'm just going to pass on the total. Again, the way I'm playing it is, to have the first quarter be low scoring. And by the way, another way that you can play it, if you think the earlier part of the game is going to be lower scoring than the later part of the game, you might be able to find the higher scoring half prop out there, and you will have to lay a little bit of a price for it, like -120, -130 probably, but play the second half to be higher scoring than the first half is another way that you can do that if you want to. It happens more often than it doesn't, and if you do play that, the second half total also includes the overtime, even though I don't think it's going to go into overtime, but that just helps a little bit if it does go into overtime. 3 times holds significance. Yes, I mentioned that earlier. The 3 red heifers in Judaism. So if that is part of the script, you're going to get the Trinity basically here. The 3 red heifers, man. It could be the case for sure, man. So it almost does seem like it would be scripted that way to me. Not to get too crazy into the conspiracies, but the other thing about the Chiefs side though, the Eagles actually have faced a pretty easy schedule this year, man. So I know like their defense has definitely looked good and whatever, and they've looked good, but they've had some games where their defense has allowed a decent amount of scoring. The Chiefs haven't really allowed as much. I mean, the Chiefs themselves haven't scored a lot. Everybody was knocking the Chiefs because they hadn't scored more than 30 in any game until they did in the AFC Championship game. And they scored below 30 in all but 2 games this season, but they won every one of those games. So that means they held their opponents to even lower scores than that. So the Chiefs were holding their opponents to low scores. The Eagles actually faced a pretty weak schedule this year, man. I mean, aside from that weird Brazil game where they faced the Packers in week 1, which you can kind of throw that out, the Eagles actually did not play that difficult to schedule. I mean, we can look at it here. I think the Eagles did face the weaker schedule, not just in the playoffs, but I mean, you can look at their schedule here. I mean, they lost at home to Atlanta. They had New Orleans, Tampa. I know Tampa was a playoff team. Cincinnati, I mean, sure, they're okay, but how many playoff teams did the Eagles face this year? Green Bay, Tampa, Washington twice, so that's 4. Rams is 5. I guess Baltimore. All right, so they face 6. But I don't know, man. I mean, and they didn't face a lot of good defenses, to say the least. And Baltimore's defense wasn't really that great this year. The Rams' defense was bad when they faced them. And Cincinnati almost made the playoffs, and their defense was real bad. So I don't know, man. So I think the Chiefs are a little bit more battle-tested in that capacity as well. The Chiefs, as far as the playoff teams that they faced Baltimore, Chargers, so that's 2 right off the bat there. San Francisco, I know, didn't make the playoffs, but Tampa's 3, Denver twice, you're up to 5, Buffalo 6, Chargers twice, of course, because they're in the same division, so that's, 7, Houston 8, Pittsburgh 9, so Kansas City faced 9. Oh, and I missed Pittsburgh for Philly, so I think Philadelphia had 6 games in the regular season against playoff teams, and Kansas City had 9, so that is a little bit of a difference there, too. So Kansas City did face the more difficult schedule. They had more games against playoff teams. So that might be a little bit of an extra reason to maybe look Kansas City's way there. But I think that's going to do it, man. I don't know if there's anything else I was going to talk about. Oh, I was going to talk about one other thing that is kind of just a weird thing about the total. If you can find it out there, you can probably find this prop, and it's will the final score be odd or even? And you'd think that, well, that's probably 50-50, right? Why would it be a difference? But for some reason, I don't know if it's just because of the way that they need to break, the ties need to be broken, or however the case may be, whatever the case may be, the odd total is actually at -130, and it actually happens more often than that. I went and I looked at all Super Bowls, all 58 prior Super Bowls, and it's 34 and 24. 34 of them have been odd totals, and 24 of them have been even totals. So it seems like there is a bit of an edge. That's almost 60% have gone odd, and you're getting way less than that if you like the odd in that one. You're getting way less than that playing the -130. But I know some of those Super Bowls were before the 2-point conversion existed and whatever, and maybe that would throw things off, because the 2-point conversion is, an even number instead of an odd number like the PAT. The PAT being pushed back might cause some PATs to be missed, whatever. But it doesn't look like it's changed that much to me over time. But again, that was kind of an interesting number to me. Like, why would odd happen more than even? But it does. So 34 and 24. But I think in the last 12 Super Bowls, I think it is 6 and 6 or something like that. So who knows? But all of the Chiefs, every one of the Chiefs' Super Bowls with Mahomes has gone to the odd, though, I believe. Good night to you as well, sir. Superb owl. Let's have a superb one, man. So I think that's going to do it. I don't know if there was anything else I was really going to talk about. This has been a long video, an hour and a half just to talk about one game, but it's the Super Bowl, man. It deserves it. So once again, my actual plays that I have are all these disgusting props, the boring props, no score in the first 6 minutes at -124, or if you can find 6.5, I mean, that's fine. You can get a better price on it if you do that. I like that one. Shortest touchdown, under 1.5 at -175. I think I found -170 on that. I might have to edit that. It was something like that. So again, these mindfuck props, or it seems like it's not going to happen, but it happens way more often than you would think because of pass interference in the end zone. With the tush push, I think it's going to happen even more often. Either team scoring 3 consecutive times, -155. I love this prop. I play it every year, and this is one of the best prices I've ever seen on it. I know the like I said, the tendency of these teams to not turn it over might hurt it a little bit, but I like that one. And then my player props are Xavier Worthy over 5 receptions at minus 137. You might have to play it over 5.5 or something, but I think he will get involved. I like that one. And the one that looks risky, Saquon Barkley under his rushing yards total. Under minus 112.5 is where it is right now. But again, you don't have to play this until tomorrow. You should be able to get probably the best number that you can find tomorrow. At least I don't think it'll get lower than that. So those are my plays. I lean to the Chiefs and I lean to the under, but I haven't played either one. I think if you're going to play either the side or the total, I think the Chiefs is the stronger way to play it, in my opinion. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tower Gang Toad. You can follow me on Twitter, of course, and the Tower Gang Podcast, patreon.com/Tower Gang to throw us some support. We are the most offensive podcast on the planet, baby, so you'll have fun with that. If you haven't watched us, I don't know, all you guys must come over from Tower Gang, right? You guys don't just watch Better Up Dead, I don't think, but we'll see. Hopefully we have a good day tomorrow, and I'll be back in the morning because I assume, even though it's Super Bowl Sunday, there is going to be some other sports are going to be happening earlier in the day. I assume there'll be a little bit of college basketball, maybe NHL and NBA. NHL is about to go into the All-Star break, but there might be a few straggler NHL games, so we'll have to look. But I'll be back in the morning and may have some plays on some of those other sports. But that's going to do it. Let's have a good one. We're coming off a slight losing day at 7-1, but I mean that's not like a bank breaker or anything like that. So not a back breaker either. All right, have a good night, everybody, and let's have a fun Super Bowl Sunday tomorrow, baby. Get some wings. People asked me that a couple of episodes ago. What do I think is the best Super Bowl food? It's classic, man. It's wings. It's easy. It's a finger food. You can pick it up. You can walk around with it. Just don't get sauce everywhere. Wings is the way to go, baby. That's what I like. All right. Peace out, guys. Thanks for hanging out.